Bonjour Caroline, bonjour à tous. Jagdish Joypal, bonjour.
Bonjour Nawaz, Caroline, bonjour, auditeurs et internautes, bonjour également.
La PNQ du leader de l'opposition ce matin à l'Assemblée nationale, elle y a adressé à vice-premier ministre Anwar Usnu, Xavier Duval pour Revin sur le naufrage du MV Wakasho, Jagdish.
Oui, c'est-à-dire le leader de l'opposition, Xavier Duval, pose une private notice question. C'est la principale question qu'il peut poser au départ, c'est-à-dire comment la séance commençait à 11h30, les conséquences Wakasho, surtout l'environnement. Alors, il demande ça, question-là, au ministre des administrations régionales et le vice-premier ministre également. Donc, tu peux vous les connaître, surtout concernant le rapport du National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Center, qui a une lacune, une faiblesse qui fait identifier après le naufrage. Également, il peut demander qui a une mesure, une disposition qui fait prend pour prévenir de telles catastrophes de l'environnement et un naufrage pareil et aux alentours du pays. Donc, cette question, Nawaz, surtout pour identifier une faiblesse, parce qu'un an après, ça fait exactement un an depuis le 25 juillet, qui Wakasho, il fait un naufrage dans la région de Pointe-Destiny, et donc, une mesure fin déjà identifiée, et National Council fin même faire beaucoup de propositions qui, d'après ban responsable, je veux dire, ça ban proposition là peut commencer à appliquer. Et qui ban danger possible potentiellement pour l'avenir, c'est là que Xavier Duval peut ou les connaît. Je rappelle que quand le Wakasho fait un naufrage le 25 juillet 2020, c'est après 11 jours qu'il y fait le récif qui ban l'autorité, il commence à réagir. Donc, au final, à bord du bateau, après qu'il finit un commencement de marée noire dans la région. Donc, c'est une catastrophe écologique et qui se séquelle, il paraît, il y a encore l'effet, l'environnement marin dans la région de Blue Bay, dans la région de Pointe-Destiny. Et la question de Xavier Duval, il peut surtout connaître comment sa situation-là peut gérer. Il nous rappelle que pendant le naufrage, juste après, finit un déversement de l'huile de diesel, environ 200 tonnes, qui tient à bord, et tient également 3900 tonnes de l'huile lourde, mais seulement, malgré tout, après 11 jours, donc la population, nous vous rappelle, commence aussi, donne coup de main, intervenir, et là, une bonne partie de sa cargaison de l'huile lourde et de diesel est capable d'être transférée, donc retirée du bateau. Alors, c'est l'urgence environnementale qui est plus importante dans sa question-là, parce que c'est une crise qui nous rappelle, d'après les pêcheurs de la région, un an après, finalement, une cérémonie organisée là-bas même sur place. Alors, je peux dire que les séquelles sont toujours là, bien continuer à être vigilant pour nous protéger l'environnement marin, surtout l'environnement marin sur toute la côte sud-est du pays.
Le naufrage du Wakasho finira certainement l'impact de la santé environnementale, la santé environnementale marine et aussi de la santé humaine, mais aussi une conséquence économique pour un opérateur de la région. Donc, reste à savoir maintenant qui réponse le vice-premier ministre Usnu pour donner. Et il ne faut pas nous oublier également qu'il y a une court investigation qui peut siéger en ce moment et lui aussi pour faire une recommandation. C'est parti pour la PNQ.
Announcements.
Yes, sir. It is with deep regret that we learned of the demise of Mr. Retno Payendi, former Member of Parliament, on 31st of July last at the age of 88. Mr. Payandi was born on 2nd of October 1932 in Rosehill. He started working at the early age of 18 in the office of the port area. He joined the civil service in 1956 and served as field officer at the Family Planning Division of the Ministry of Health. Concurrently, he worked towards the completion of a postgraduate diploma in population growth studies awarded to him by Cardiff University in 1978. In 1979, he joined l'ACIM, l'Association des consommateurs de l'île Maurice, and held the position of president of the association from 1983 to 1987. Mr. Speaker, sir, Mr. Payandi became a trade unionist in 1970 and served as member of the Federation of Civil Service Union. From 1970 to 1983, he held the position of organizing secretary of the Trade Union Educators of the Government Servants Association. He occupied the post of vice president of the Federation of Civil Service Union from 1980 to 1983. In July 1987, Mr. Payandi resigned from the civil service to stand as a candidate in the general election in constituency number 8, Quartier Militaire Moka, under the banner of the MSM Labour Party Alliance, and he was elected as third member. On 4th of January 1988, he was appointed Parliamentary Private Secretary, a post which he held until 6 August 1991. He also contested the 1991 general election in the same constituency under the banner of the MSM-MMM Alliance and was again elected to the then Legislative Assembly. On 2nd of October 1991, he became Parliamentary Private Secretary, a post he held until 16th of November 1995. Later, in the same year, Mr. Payandi retired from active politics. Thereafter, he served as chairperson of the Louis Lagesse Trust Fund. Mr. Speaker, sir, may I request you to kindly direct the clerk to convey the deep condolences of the Assembly to the bereaved family.
Mr. Speaker, sir, may I associate myself with the tribute paid by the Honourable Prime Minister to late Retno Payandi. I knew Mr. Payandi very well. We started our parliamentary career together and had occasion to work closely with him on a number of occasions. My memory, Mr. Speaker, of him is that of a most respectable and respected gentleman. Therefore, may I also request you and request the clerk to convey our condolences to the bereaved family. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable members, I associate myself with the tribute paid to the memory of late Mr. Retno Payandi, former Member of Parliament, by the Honourable Prime Minister and the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, and I direct the clerk to convey the deep condolences of the Assembly to the bereaved family. Honourable members, I have two short announcements. I have been informed by Her Excellency Srimati Nandini Singla, High Commissioner of India, that the Lok Sabha has on 27th July 2021 paid tribute and observed a minute of silence in memory of the late Thangu Jagannath, former Prime Minister and former President of the Republic of Mauritius, and late Dr. Kenneth David Buchiza Kwanda, founding father and first President of the Republic of Zambia. In his speech, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Sri Om Birla, recalled that, I quote, Sir Anirudh Jagannath was the chief architect of India-Mauritius bilateral relations, and that owing to his significant role in fostering the bilateral relations, the government of India has decorated him with the Padma Vishubhan and the first Pravasi Bharatiya Saman Award. I'm tabling a copy of an English translation of the memorial homage. I shall, in the name of honorable members and in my personal name, transmit to the Honorable Speaker of the Lok Sabha the expression of gratitude and thanks of the National Assembly. Thank you. I have another announcement. My attention has been drawn to several media articles which have repeatedly reported that, as a speaker, I did not call Honorable Minister Hari Ram to order when he uttered unparliamentary words at the sitting of Tuesday, 23rd June 2020, to the address of Honorable Shakil Mohammed. I wish to draw the attention of the House that I called both the Honorable Minister and Honorable Shakil Mohammed in my office on the same day regarding the said matter. I have deemed it fit to inform the House and the population at large that upon the Assembly resuming on that day, the Honorable Minister Hari Ram tendered his apologies and withdrew the objectionable words twice in the Assembly. Honorable members, your kind attention is drawn to pages 89 and 90 of the Hansard dated 23rd June 2020, which is posted on the website of the National Assembly. I thank you.
Papers have been laid. Questions?
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, my question is addressed to Dr. the Honorable Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Local Government and Disaster Risk Management. Whether, in regard to the MV Wakasho shipwreck in July 2020 and its aftermath, he will table a copy of the report, if any, from the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Center on the shortcomings identified, indicating the remedial measures, if any, as recommended by the National Council that have been implemented to date to prevent a similar shipwreck and to deal with the ensuing threats.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Center act as a main institution in Mauritius for the coordinating and monitoring the implementation of the disaster risk reduction and management activities. The NDRRMC coordinate with all stakeholders to ensure that risk reduction and preparedness planning is included at all levels of the country, from individual and communities to the government policy and strategy. The NDRRMC, the National Crisis Committee, and the National Emergency Operation Command, the NEOC, among other entities, are governed by the provision contained in the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act 2016. The Act provides for a legal framework to better manage disasters with a view to protecting life and property in a more effective manner. According to the National Disaster Scheme 2015, the NEOC facilities are made available to the Department of Environment when they have to activate the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan. The maritime incident involving ship at sea are usually dealt with by the Director of Shipping under the Merchant Shipping Act 2007. As per Section 10 of the said Act, shipping casualties, which state, where a shipping casualty occurs, such as the loss or presumed loss, stranding, grounding, abandonment, or damage to a ship, and at the time it occurs, the ship was registered under this Act or under the law of another country, the Director of Shipping or a surveyor designated by him may hold a preliminary inquiry into the casualty and may, for that purpose, exercise any power conferred by Section 8(1) and such additional powers as a minister may confer on them for that particular inquiry. In case of a spill at sea, then the Director of Environment under the Environment Protection Act 2002 comes into play and becomes the Director of Spill. Mr. Speaker, sir, the coming into force of the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Act 2016 did not alter the specific responsibilities of the Department of the Environment and the Director of Shipping with respect to the shipwreck and oil spill disasters. Accordingly, and as specified previously by the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Center, has mainly played a coordinating role in disaster risk reduction and management activities. The MV Wakasho entered our national waters territorial seat, that is 12 nautical miles, on the 23rd of July 2020, 2 days prior to its grounding on Sunday night, 25th of July 2020, off the lagoon of Point Destiny. As such, upon the advice of the Commissioner of Police, the National Emergency Operation Command, as well as the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan, were activated. Since day one of the incident, focus was rather on salvaging operation of the MV Wakasho and was under the direct responsibility of the Director of Shipping. Mr. Speaker, sir, the grounding of MV Wakasho triggered a convergence of international experts, salvers, and logistics from Smith's Salvage Company to Mauritius from all around the world. And in view of the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic, a special quarantine condition was exceptionally granted to experts from UN, IMO, Renew Island, France, Japan, UK, ITOF, cleaning contractors, that is Polyeco, Les Flocs Depollution, whose service and guidance were of critical importance. However, due to the sea state dynamics, the vessel started to crack on the 5th of August, triggering a Tier 3, that is more than 100 tons of oil spill at sea, as from the 6th of August 2020. A national environmental emergency had to be declared on the 7th of August 2020 by the Prime Minister under Section 34(1) of the EPA 2002 Act. And the NEOC was activated for a total of 21 days. NEOC was upgraded from level 2 to level 3 as from the 6th of August 2020. A total number of 62 situational reports together with daily brief were prepared and sent to high officials, including key NCC members on a 12-hour interval since the 25th of July 2020. NEOC provided support to the two leading organizations who have the legal mandate to deal with the MV Wakasho situation through the coordination of sourcing and deployment of available resources and logistics from local authorities and other agencies. NEOC also provided support for the arrival, COVID-19 quarantine, and deployment of foreign staff. Following the Wakasho event, lessons learned at the level of the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Center are as follows. Firstly, the Wakasho is another situation where a vessel went aground near our shore with...
With louder, I have some problem to hear.
Maybe I'll just, if you allow me, I'll just remove my mask.
I have some problem.
That's okay. Okay, thanks. Hello. Following the Wakasho event, lessons learned at the level of the National Disaster and Risk Reduction Management Center are as follows. The Wakasho is another situation where a vessel went aground near our shore with no immediate oil spill. However, MV Wakasho had on board significant volume of oil representing a threat of a spill exceeding a Tier 3. In this case, since the 25th of July 2020, the Director of Shipping and the Merchant and Shipping Act had a leading role for the salvaging of the casualty on the basis that there was no oil spill, despite real risk of oil spill exceeding a level of Tier 3. The legal mandate to respond to oil spill rested upon the Director of Environment as per the Environmental Protection Act. Hence, the need for harmonization of legal provision among Merchant and Shipping Act, the Environmental Protection Act, and the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act. Secondly, the Director of Shipping and Director of Environment had different lines of reporting under two different ministries for the same situation. Sometimes there was a lack of convergence in terms of priorities between the two institutions before the vessel started breaking into two pieces. The risk of oil spill from a grounded vessel should never be assumed to be low or minimal. Fourthly, the National Emergency Operation Command, which was activated since the 25th of July 2020 and operating round the clock, was mainly responsible for producing the consolidated report. However, the NEOC had difficulties in obtaining timely and consistent information from a number of stakeholders. A NEOC oil spill incident action plan needs to be developed, which will elaborate on its coordination role. Ministries and departments having key role in an oil spill crisis need to understand their role and responsibilities and have to develop capabilities and the culture of operating on a 24/7 basis. Such ministries and departments have to mobilize their personnel and set up a crisis cell at their respective level. 6. The different cell at the National Oil Spill and Contingency Plan, evaluation, operation, logistic, finance, and communication have to be appropriately manned, structured, and rendered operational at a stable place near the incident site as far as possible. A dedicated ministry or department to lead the different NOSCP cell, taking of sample and carrying out relevant tests and reporting, the management, including logistic arrangement for the team of international experts and management of volunteers and NGOs. Seventh, pre-identification of coastal suitable facilities in the south, east, southwest, east, and north of the island to be used as a command center for managing future oil spill. 8, the management and capacity building of oil spill management at Agariga, Saint-Brandon, and Rodrigue to be included in the revised NOSCP. Meeting by Director, NOSCP, Director of Shipping, National Crisis Committee, and National Crisis Management meeting to be streamlined so that stakeholders are not unnecessarily held up at the detriment of operational activities. The role of the shipping agent, owner of the vessel, charter of vessel, salvage team, environmental arm, ITOF, to be understood by stakeholders involved in the issue of oil spill. The revised NOSCP to clearly define the role, responsibility, and action by stakeholders before, during, and after the oil spill emergencies. The revised NOSCP to be based upon scenarios where oil spill has already occurred, as well as when there is a threat of oil spill due to an aground or vessel in fire, etc. An in-depth study of the vulnerability of Mauritius, Rodrigue, Agariga, and Saint-Brandon to oil spill based on maritime activities and routes. Software modeling tool to be made available for identifying possible movement of oil slick and likely impact on our coastal areas. Need to implement an oil spill risk reduction measures that is structural and non-structural, such as pre-positioning and pre-install of facilities for quick deployment of oil spill combat equipment such as booms, ecological pin, etc. Guidelines and parameters for waiving off the environmental emergency and restricted areas. Regular simulation exercise on oil spill incident so that stakeholders better understand their role and responsibilities. Media handling and management to be well defined with the identification of dedicated team for regular intervention. Mr. Speaker, I assume that the leader of the opposition is referring to the preliminary inquiry report on the grounding of MV Wakashio bearing IMO number 9337119 in accordance with the Merchant Shipping Act and the Merchant Shipping Preliminary Inquiries and Formal Investigation of Shipping Casualties, Regulation 2017, which was submitted on the 27th of August 2020. The report was on the grounding of MV Wakashio on the reef off Point Destiny. The preliminary inquiry has been conducted in accordance with the Merchant Shipping Act 2007 and the Merchant Shipping Preliminary Inquiries and Formal Investigation of Shipping Casualties Regulation 2017. The purpose of the preliminary inquiry was to investigate maritime accident and to make recommendations for improving safety in Mauritius water. The preliminary inquiry is carried out separately from the criminal investigation. The criminal and/or liability aspect of the accident are not considered therein. The investigation found that the main reason why the casualty occurred was because of the failure to continuously monitoring the ship position due to social distraction on the bridge. And this was a failure in implementation. And this was a failure in implementing the vessel safety management system procedures for maintaining a proper lookout while at sea. The report has made 21 recommendations to address these safety issues. After a serious incident such as the one which happened with MV Wakashio, it is most important to look for lessons which can be learned. The investigation has been as thorough as possible in the circumstances, and a number of points have emerged which should be followed through to try to improve safety at sea and pollution prevention in the future. The recommendation which follows are addressed to the shipping community as a whole, but certain points will be of special interest to particular section of the maritime community. The salient recommendations of the report which are being addressed in the short term are as follows. Firstly, to ship owners and flag states, incidents involving ship do not only affect the vessel concerned and its crew, shows people are very much affected whenever a major pollution incident like this one occurred. Therefore, it is recommended that ship owners and flag state ensure that the safety management system is correctly applied and followed by all those on board and ashore too, that is manning the ship management companies. Proper and appropriate navigation chart for particular location should be in use at all times. Unnecessary course deviation for unknown reasons should be banned. Coastal states, that is in its case Mauritius now, it is recommended that a modern vessel traffic management and information system be set up. This VTIMS, that is a Vessel Traffic Management Information System, shall operate with dedicated personnel who have followed appropriate training and are well versed with movement of ship. It is therefore recommended that aid to navigation be provided at locations where there is considerable movement of traffic, especially the east and the southeastern part of the island. The ship routing. Under Article 22 of UNCLOS, a coastal state like Mauritius may, where necessary, having regard to the safety of navigation, require foreign ship exercising the right of innocent passage through its territorial sea to use such sea lane and traffic separation scheme as it may designate or prescribe for the regulation of the passage of ship. Furthermore, under Chapter 5, Regulation 10 of SOLAS Convention, there is the mention of ship routing which may be implemented on a mandatory or non-mandatory basis. The purpose of ship routing is for the safety of life at sea, the safety and efficiency of navigation, and the protection of the marine environment. Mauritius can adopt the areas to be avoided, routing measures, which are areas within defined limit in which either navigation is particularly hazardous or it is exceptionally important to avoid casualty and which should be avoided by all ships or by certain class of ship. It is therefore recommended that appropriate ship routing system be established so that vessels navigating in the vicinity of Mauritius keep well clear of certain areas and respect at least 12 nautical miles clearance from the coast, especially the east and the southeast part. This shall apply to all vessels, including those in innocent passage. It is also recommended that the appropriate legal instrument be drafted to penalize offenders. The National Oil Spill Contingency Plan shall be amended accordingly to include swift intervention before the actual incident, that is oil spill at sea. It should also include priorities for protection in case of an oil pollution incident at sea and waste management. The Shipping Division of the Ministry of Blue Economy, Marine Resources, Fisheries and Shipping, as well as the Ministry of Environment, Solid Waste Management and Climate Change, shall work together and in consultation with all other stakeholders to coordinate the action in case of a threat to the marine environment from any vessel. Emergency towing vessel or salvage towing tug. In case of an emergency such as a fire, grounding or others, a vessel might need to be towed to a safe place to prevent dangers to man and to prevent pollution. It is therefore recommended that an ETV, that is, emergency towing vehicle, be permanently on standby within Mauritius so that it can intervene within Mauritius and its EEZ. Vessel reporting system. The automatic identification system allows shore station to get valuable information on vessel, but as a matter of information gathering, some vessels, such as bulk carriers and laden tankers, should be reporting whenever they pass through certain highly sensitive places around Mauritius. Therefore, it is recommended that a vessel reporting system be implemented in Mauritius with the obligation for laden tankers and bulk carriers to report to coast radio station of the National Coast Guard whenever they pass through certain highly sensitive places around Mauritius. Maritime security. Therefore, it is recommended that security measures be enhanced in order to deal with vessels that fail to respond to communication or warning from the National Coast Guard. On one side, it could be that the communication system of the vessel are not operational, but on the other hand, it could imply the need for more alertness on behalf of shore authorities responsible for security matters. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed that at this point, it would be inappropriate to table a copy of the draft report as the police inquiry is still going on as well as a court of investigation. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister, Vice Prime Minister, has taken 21 minutes. I hope that you will give appropriate time also to me to ask the supplementary questions. The question was addressed to the Minister as he is responsible for national disasters. And Section 6 of the Act does say that the Council, which you chair, should examine post-disaster review reports from the National Centre and recommend remedial measures. This is this report that I'm looking at, and this report that I've asked you to table.
That report I've mentioned from the beginning. The first report was the National Disaster Risk Reduction Committee. That was the first report.
Remedial measures that have been taken.
And the thing we are going to take, the measures we are going to take, I mentioned it earlier in the first report.
No conversation. Address the chair, and you also, Minister.
The question is which
the
measures
chair.
have been taken, have been implemented, not are going to be implemented.
Because as you know, we have had an inquiry has been done.
Okay.
An inquiry has been done. And we can't take the measure instantly.
You have not taken any measures?
No, it takes time. We have to be fair. We can't just do it overnight. It takes time to put them in practice.
Okay, it's just 12 months have gone by. We have not taken any measures. I want to ask about the Maritime Zones Act, where the Prime Minister himself can designate the sea lanes with the approval of the International Maritime Organization.
If my presence is not appreciated or needed, then...
Excuse me, Mr. Speaker, I cannot look at it.
Yeah. No, this is not the debate. This is question time. You address the chair, and he addresses the chair. If I am not needed, then I'm going. It's as simple as
that. Situation cocasse à l'Assemblée nationale, c'est le speaker lui-même qui fait un walk-out de la Chambre parce que le speaker très outré du fait que ni le vice-premier ministre Asnou ni le leader de l'opposition peut adresser the chair, donc peut adresser la question et bien sûr la procédure veut qu'au Parlement, le parlementaire adresse the chair. Donc vous êtes en direction du speaker, pose votre question et puis par la suite le ministre répond. Mais là, il y a un débat entre le VPM Asnou et le leader de l'opposition et le speaker finit prend ça très mal et il finit débouté. Il dit si pas besoin de présence, peut y aller. Donc dans le jargon technique, il suspend la séance. Mais Jagdish, c'est une première fois tout ça, un speaker lui-même.
Oui.
Ben, un speaker déjà outré, il y a beaucoup de désordre dans la chambre.
Il attire l'attention vers
suspendent
lui.
la séance.
Oui.
Mais là, il n'a pas fini aucun désordre, une ambiance plutôt correcte, mais il est outré par le fait qu'il n'a pas pu guetter en cette direction quand il peut soit pose question ou bien peut répondre à la question. Donc, ça va pas adresse the chair. Et c'est un genre de walkout qui le speaker.
Oui, c'est un walkout qui le speaker. Donc, la séance les suspend d'elle-même parce qu'il n'a pas annoncé aucune suspension de la séance.
Il n'a même pas dit
Il
ça.
n'a pas même dit ça. Donc, les députés retrouvent eux sans comédienne, les élèves, sans un professeur dans la classe. Alors, donc, bon, heureusement, je ne pas pour faire aucun désordre. Alors, là, ce qui passait, nous avons remarqué 21 minutes, il consacré à sa réponse de Anwar Husnu à la question de Xavier Duval. Avant ça, pendant les 10, c'est-à-dire 14 premières minutes, donc les 10 premières minutes, finena hommage du Premier ministre à l'ancien député Retno Payendi, qui nous rappelle élu dans le Parlement en 2 occasions, 87 et 91. Et là, il y a une question qui supposait venir pour le Premier ministre. Alors, donc, qui bizarre répond. Il y a 4 questions qui sont adressées. Mais là, le fait qu'Anwar Husnu également, il donne lecture d'une longue réponse et il adresse le speaker une seule fois. Vous remarquez, une seule fois, il mentionne Mr. Speaker. Qui arrive à une question maintenant, parce qu'il est en PRG au Parlement. Il y a 4 questions et parmi ces 20 questions-là, il y a la question de Angus Road, question posée par le député Assia Baden. Donc, nous espérons, comme Xavier Duval peut dire, le fait que le ministre il répond à la question pendant 21 minutes donne suffisamment le temps. Et s'il y a une question supplémentaire pour poser, nous pouvons dépasser l'heure de 12h30 et donc nous pouvons déborder la question de Prime Minister's Question Time, ne pas connaître qui l'attitude le speaker pour prendre.
Ouais, parce que normalement,
oui,
c'est un point très important, très pertinent qui est soulevé Jagdish, parce qu'il vers 13h, le Parlement break pour lunch, pour la pause déjeuner. Et là, dans Prime Minister's Question Time, il y a la question de Patrick Assiavaden de Angus Road, d'après l'ordre du jour, la 4e question. Mais il y a la première question de Reza Ultim, la carte d'identité biométrique, et puis question numéro 3 de Kushal Lobin, également la carte d'identité biométrique.
Oui.
Normalement, nous espérons que ce sera le cas. Normalement, le Premier ministre pour répondre les 2 questions en même temps. Ce qui veut dire pour répondre question Reza Ultim, question Kushal Lobin en même temps. Maintenant, il y a une question qui figure donc en 2e position du député Fabrice David. D'après renseignements qui m'ont gagné juste avant le début de la séance, c'est que Fabrice David il retire sa question-là. Ce qui veut dire que juste après question le code d'identité biométrique, le Premier ministre supposé répondre le Angus Road. Et nous connaissons très bien que le Premier ministre lui-même est impliqué directement dans l'enquête concernant Angus Road.
Et c'est ça que Assiavaden peut demander.
Est-ce qu'il, pour réciproquer sa question-là, après ce geste, cette démarche du speaker de walk-out lui-même, et c'est vrai, Jagdish, bon, pas qu'il y a une grande nécessité pour le speaker suspendre sa séance-là. Il est capable tout simplement, stand on his feet, et attire l'attention sur le fait qu'il parle besoin d'adresse lui. Donc maintenant il suspend la séance. Je ne sais pas pendant combien de temps cette suspension de la séance pour durer. Quand pour reprendre, leader de l'opposition a une série de questions supplémentaires. Et là, pour finir, arrive 12h30, même au-delà. Et ensuite, pendant la question, la tranche de la Prime Minister's Question Time, et Reza Ultim a une question, le code d'identité biométrique. Et là, nous pensons pendant pas mal de supplementary questions et risquer fin arrive ENEA. Donc la grande question maintenant est de savoir, après ce que le speaker fait, est-ce qu'il Premier ministre pour répondre à la question sur Angus Road. C'est ce qui nous connaît donc dans pas trop longtemps. Alors,
d'après le calendrier établi pour le Parlement, 11h30 le Parlement commençait et jusqu'à midi répond à c'est-à-dire PNQ. C'est la question qui est plus importante. Leader de l'opposition, et dans sa prérogative, pose une question qui est d'une portée nationale. Après, c'est le Prime Minister's Question Time qui commençait. Et là, il y a jusqu'à 13h. parce que le Premier ministre a une série de questions, généralement une dizaine de questions, mais exceptionnellement cette semaine, il y a 5 questions à l'ordre du jour. Alors si le député Fabrice David il retire ces questions, ça reste seulement 4 questions. Et là, nous pouvons attendre maintenant, est-ce que Xavier Duval poil de l'avant avec ce banc de questions supplémentaires, parce que nous pas encore gagné toutes les réponses, il peut causer également un rapport concernant l'environnement, une disposition, mesure de redressement qui peut bien prendre, pour, surtout après le naufrage du Wakasio. Et Xavier Duval, donc, il n'a pas de question là pour poser et le ministre bien capable de répondre. Ensuite, nous pouvons attendre concernant la tranche de questions réservées au Premier ministre. Et Patrick Assia-Baden, il peut donc il peut attendre qu'il ait une réponse à ces questions. Quelle est la question? Donc, c'est surtout Patrick Assia-Baden, peut vous les connaître, suite à une complainte alléguée de corruption, c'est-à-dire concernant l'acquisition de certaines propriétés à la rue Angus Road à Vacqua, vous les connaissez, si l'enquête qui peut faire, alors qui finit arriver, quand l'enquête était et qui banne surtout where matters stand as to the inquiries. C'est là les questions qui le Premier ministre est là pour répondre et surtout les concerner directement par cette question.
Voilà. Et
Ensuite, la PNQ finit que le député, le ministre, le vice-premier ministre, Anwar Asnou, il donne une série de propositions qu'il fait, mais seulement il reconnaît qu'il y a beaucoup de propositions pour qu'il tout ban concerné dans le cas de protection de l'environnement, en cas naufrage, le département de shipping, la responsabilité du directeur de shipping, également, donc, tout ça ban et l'institution, tout ça ban personnes concernées là, je bizarre reste toujours mobilisé, toujours très attentive à une situation qui est capable d'arriver à n'importe quel moment et les dire qui généralement pour bien encore une disposition et l'IP proposé qui besoin un emergency towing vehicle, donc toujours disponible dans le port pour capable d'intervenir en cas de naufrage. Donc et l'IP proposé même que le gouvernement, les autorités, le département de shipping besoin au courant du déplacement de bateaux, de navires qui empruntent les eaux territoriales, se traversent dans la région de Maurice. Et l'autre proposition qu'il peut faire, à part le emergency towing, c'est-à-dire véhicule, il peut dire qu'il a besoin d'établir une map, une carte pour capable donc assurer que le trafic maritime lui déroule de manière correcte dans sa région-là et qui tout ban bateau qui est enregistré, donc je te fais connaître au safety management et superintending safety, donc ça il est capable d'appliquer également dans le cas de la navigation.
Et le vice-premier ministre Anwar Astou, il y a une affaire très importante, Jagdish. Il y a différents lines of reporting, que ce soit un responsable au niveau de l'environnement, on a directeur de l'environnement, on a directeur of shipping, on a différents lines of reporting. Et le NEOC de ce côté, a difficulté pour gagner l'information, et un manque de convergence entre l'environnement et shipping. Donc, nous trouvons un manquement institutionnel qui fait qui travaille là.
C'est un certain cafouillage, pas un certain grand cafouillage.
Et travaille là pour faire à temps.
Les reconnaître, oui. Et donc, c'est-à-dire, personne ne peut connaître et que ça n'a pas prendre la responsabilité. Ça manque de coordination là. Il crée un vide. Donc, pendant une dizaine de jours, 11 jours même, pas fini d'intervenir. Et là, il dit, dans un cas pareil, le director of shipping, il a sa responsabilité principale là pour assurer que toute sa bonne organisation là, sa coordination là, l'y assurer. Donc, l'y faire pour qu'en retour, en cas de n'importe qui danger qui est là, je suis capable d'intervenir donc et porter secours à un bateau ou bien et surtout veiller qui nous pas menacé par la pollution ou bien menacé par un oil spill, c'est-à-dire un déversement de l'huile lourde qui polluait nos régions.
Alors,
la séance reste toujours suspendue.
Voilà, mon gain confirmation du retrait de la question de Fabrice David, qui envoie une note à la clerc de l'Assemblée nationale. Il dit kindly note that I'm withdrawing my PQ B860. Jagdish, vous confirmez donc PQ B860 from today's order paper with immediate effect. Thank you for your consideration. Donc, Fabrice David, il retire sa question. Alors,
Oui.
là, nous finissons une concertation au niveau du Parti travailliste. Fabrice David, quand il retire sa question, il donne plus sens pour que la question de Patrick Kassé-Avaden, le Angus Road, est posée. Maintenant, du côté de la majorité, peut-être vous êtes pris un petit peu au dépourvu, est-ce que du côté de la majorité gouvernementale, vous êtes pour employer les autres tactiques pour qu'ils évitent la question sur Angus Road? Ça, c'est une question que nous pouvons poser. Ce n'est pas une affirmation, c'est une question que nous pouvons poser. Est-ce qu'après le move du Parti travailliste, que Fabrice David retire sa question, maintenant, est-ce que du côté de la majorité, vous pouvez faire les autres moves pour que le Premier ministre par répondre à sa question, le Angus Road? Et maintenant, finalement, sa suspension, sa walk-out entre guillemets du speaker, et la séance reste suspendue pendant quelques minutes maintenant. Et quand pour reprendre, pour arriver supplementary questions, le PNQ, donc nous pas connaître est-ce qui pour réussir arrive à la question de Patrick Kassé-Avaden, le Angus Road. Finalement, Jagdish, la PNQ est désormais éclipsée.
Oui.
C'est déjà éclipsé.
Le grand titre, c'est le walkout.
La grande question maintenant est de savoir si la question de Patrick Kassé-Avaden sur l'affaire Angus Road, que le Premier ministre lui-même impliqué dans l'enquête qui l'ICAC fin de démarrer, est-ce que le Premier ministre pour répondre à sa question-là? Voilà tout l'intérêt de la séance parlementaire de ce matin.
Oui, et la séance il commençait à 11h30. À midi, Anwar Hasnou finit. Ensuite, il fera un hommage au départ. Et le speaker fait deux annonces avant. Et donc, quand il finit de commencer, à midi, il finit de dire il fera un not needed. Là, il fait le walkout, il quitte. Déjà maintenant, midi 14, ça fait 13 minutes. Qui le Parlement l'est déjà suspend. Et sa question de Fabrice David là, bon pour un auditeur, un internaute, je connais, c'était une question qui concerne surtout ce circonscription, c'est la région de la Tour-Kénique. Il peut demander au Premier ministre s'il peut gagner renseignement avec le commissaire de police concernant l'incidence, la prolifération de la drogue dans la région de la Tour-Kénique depuis janvier 2020 jusqu'à ce jour. Et donne une indication, une disposition, une mesure qu'il peut prendre, surtout pour contrôler la prolifération de la drogue dans la région de la Tour-Kénique qui trouve dans la circonscription numéro 1. Donc ça, c'est la question que Fabrice David a retirée. Pour aller un petit peu plus peut-être le programme des questions, des interpellations, donc permettre à Premier ministre de répondre à deux questions. Et ces deux questions liées avec la carte biométrique et ensuite nous avons la question de Angus Road. Et en dernier lieu, nous trouvons une question de Nando Boda, ancien ministre jusqu'à récemment dans le gouvernement. Il pose une question sur Safe City Project, il peut connaître qui surtout combien quel nombre de caméras qui finissent installées jusqu'à l'air et qui opérationnelles, donc qui peut fonctionner. Et il demande également non, fournisseur et quand tout le projet pour compléter. Donc une question de l'ancien ministre Nando Boda, il figure juste après la question de Angus Road, donc il est en 5e position, mais là il trouve à la 4e position après qu'il y a une question retirée.
Oui, donc reste à savoir maintenant à quelle heure la séance va reprendre.
Et si le speaker pour allouer de temps additionnel au leader de l'opposition, c'est-à-dire pose sur une question supplémentaire et permet peut-être, généralement, nous ne connaissons pas si le order paper est trop strict. Dans le passé, généralement, quand il y a un incident pareil, parce qu'il applique le standing order avec trop de rigueur, quand il y a une question, une situation pareille, donc tu peux permettre que le Parlement continue avec une question jusqu'à 16h de l'après-midi. Donc, je tale pour le déjeuner et quand on reprend vers 14h30, il y a encore environ 90 minutes qui tu peux allouer à une question. Mais depuis quelques années, nous pouvons dire, sa situation-là est éliminée complètement. Le standing order devient très strict. Alors, il y a une allocation de temps, d'heures à différentes questions. D'abord PNQ, d'abord Prime Minister's Question Time et interpellation, une question qui va un député poser.
Voilà, donc le speaker peut faire son retour au sein de l'hémicycle. Donc la séance va se poursuivre.
Order. Please remain seated. Honorable Leader.
Mr. Speaker, this is the last day of Parliament. I will try to do my best to finish on good terms. The question, Mr. Speaker, relates to the Maritime Zones Act, Section 10, where the Prime Minister is authorized to designate sea lanes. And this is why I'm asking the Minister now whether he knows why the Prime Minister has up to now, under Section 10 of the Maritime Zones Act, not designated sea lanes for safe passage to oblige ships to keep away from the coast of Mauritius.
Mr. Speaker,
You are in charge of national disaster recovery.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I've explained earlier in my reply that yes, as a coastal state of Mauritius can, where necessary, we can design ship routing. But as I've said earlier, the inquiry is going on. It's still going on. Things are going on now. An inquiry was done by the national disaster, and another inquiry is going on now. We are looking at that. We have identified, I've just mentioned it. We are looking into these issues. But if you tell me why we have not done it now, okay. We are planning to do it. I've mentioned it, we are going to do it. It takes a bit of time. We are going to do it just overnight. It takes a bit of time, we are going to work on it. Because it's kind of things. According to UNCLOS, we can do it. But we have to inform UNCLOS as well. We are going to do this. We just can't decide we are going to do it and that's it.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the Minister has just told us that for the 1 year he has done nothing. I'd like to ask him whether he's aware that between the last 3 months only, there have been 3 ships that broke down in the territorial waters of Mauritius, and had the Prime Minister designated the sea lanes, this would not have happened.
What's the question?
May I ask the Honourable Minister, Mr. Speaker, whether he can tell us, as he's responsible for disaster risk reduction, why the government has not yet purchased a powerful tug so that you are able to pull any of the ships out of danger zone?
Mr. Speaker, trying to buy a tug is just...
Order there.
Trying to buy a tug. Is it just something you get off the shelf like that, Mr. Speaker, sir? Or is it something you had?
Honorable Danu, please withdraw from the chamber.
Yes, I was explaining, Mr. Speaker. Trying to buy a tug like that, it's not something you can just buy it like that. It's because you have to decide you're going to buy a tug for what kind of ship you're going to buy it, for what kind of capacity of ship you're going to buy it. So it takes up time. That's why I've mentioned it is in our report. We are going to consider it. We are going to do it. But to expect the country to go and buy a tug just like that without knowing what we are going to buy, I mean, and then you are going to come later, you criticize us, why did you buy this kind of tug? You didn't buy another tug. So, I mean, we have to be fair. We have to be fair about it.
At least a tug could have been ordered or a tender, even that powerful tug, no tender, 1 year. What about a lifeboat? Is that also something that you will take too difficult to purchase? A lifeboat? Because we are a cyclone-prone nation, we have so many ships around the country. Have you bought or have recommended the purchase of a lifeboat?
This is not actually, we have towing boat here, we have vessel. It's not mentioned here. What's mentioned, we are going to act on it, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, it's well known that 30,000 ships go by our coast, eastern coast, every year. There are things that this was actually mentioned in the Court of Investigation. Buoys, Mr. Speaker, Raycon buoys, B-U-O-Y-S, which emit signals to passing ships to warn them of the danger of Mauritius. Why have you not yet recommended, or why has the government not yet purchased any of these buoys to place on the eastern coast of Mauritius at least.
But we are saying that we are looking at the regulation of passage of the ship. But, I mean, you can laugh at it, but if you went my place, you would not have been able to order it just like that. This kind of thing takes time. We've got a report, the inquiry has been done, we have got the report, and the government is going to take measures. We are going to take measures. To tell me that I'm not in 1 year, we have not taken the measures. And you know the situation we are living with nowadays, with the COVID. When this thing happened, the vacation incident, we're in the middle of COVID. You know what was the situation at that time. Can we just, get everything, like it's a normal time and get everything sorted out as it used to be? No. There's a lot of restriction in the present situation. So we have to appreciate. We don't pretend that, look, everything is like normal and we have to get it done overnight. No.
Mr. Speaker, can I ask Honourable Minister, his officers have said in the Court of Investigation that Mauritius is only equipped to deal with an oil spill of 100 tons, whereas 1,000 tons were spilled, 4,000 tons were on board that ship. Why is it that 12 months later, we can still only deal with an oil spill of 100 tons, Mr. Speaker?
Same thing, Mr. Speaker, sir. We have tried to identify the issues, the problem, and we are going to try to sort it out. I've said it. If we were not going to, Mr. Speaker, if we were not genuine about trying to find a solution, I wasn't going to come and mention it in the House. If I was not going to act on this. The fact that we have done an inquiry, we are going to act on it. But I've explained, it takes time. In the situation as we are living now, it takes time. So we have to accept. And that's why we have not been able to do so far. But we are working on it.
Mr. Speaker, most of the accidents can happen at night. For night operations, are you aware, is the Minister aware that it takes 4 hours to put the Barracuda to sea, 2 hours to put the Dornier to fly, 1 hour for the helicopter to fly? This, Mr. Speaker, means that there is no emergency response time at all in Mauritius 1 year after the Wakashio, the Sagaï Tonjava sank, and the poor fishing boat sank also recently. There is still no 24/7 emergency rescue system in this country for ships.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
None.
Mauritius, it's easy to come and criticize like that. Mauritius, being a small island, so far from all the major places where you have these facilities, trying to get the help here like that, it's not easy, Mr. Speaker, sir. That's why I repeat myself, the leader of the opposition coming, after 1 year we have not got A, after 1 year we have not got B, after 1 year we have not got C. Damn it takes time. We know our responsibility. This government has been taking their responsibility. We know our responsibility. We have got our report. We have done the inquiry. We have got the report, and we are going to do the work.
Mr. Speaker, the nation will take their own conclusions. I'll ask the Honourable Minister one last question on this point. The Poudre d'Or National Coast Guard post only has a pirogue and a 25 HP outboard engine which they carry on their shoulders. There have recently been deaths there, and that is where the Sagaï Tonjava sank. Mr. Speaker, why hasn't the Poudre d'Or Coast Guard post and also the Maibor Coast Guard post been substantially upgraded since the Wakashio and other incidents on the East Coast? That also takes time.
Naturally, it takes time, because if we have started working, if we have started to do the work previously, if we have started to do the work, and then the work is not up to standard, the leader of the opposition will come to the House and said, what are you doing? You have put something which is not needed there. So that's why we are taking, okay, we take our time, but we'll do it properly, for God's sake. That's why. I mean, if you can't say, we have not got A, it takes time. B, take time. C, take time. But damn it, everything takes time. We have to study the thing and then we come with it.
Mr. Speaker, we have just got the finance bill, which is amending 93 laws. He himself said that one of the main reasons for the very slow and inadequate response to the Wakashio shipwreck was divided responsibilities between the Director of Shipping, Environment, the MPA, Coast Guard, your ministry, etc. Why hasn't at least legislation been put in this House so that you would, in fact, get rid of these divided responsibilities and have one person in charge when the next disaster occurs, as it will?
Mr. Speaker, sir, we have had an inquiry done. We have one other inquiry going on. Once we get the inquiry, once everything is done, we are going to get that sorted out. I've repeated it so many times, we are going to get it done. And the leader of the opposition is going, it's 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. But what are we supposed to do? The next day after Wakasho, we are supposed to order each and everything like that? Is that what he would have done? It's so easy to criticize from the opposition. It's so easy. After 1 year, you have not done this. After 1 year, you have not done this. But damn it, it takes time.
Speaker, the budget for the acquisition of equipment for the National Disaster Whatever Center that he has been reduced from 8 million last year to 800,000 this year. So how can he explain that although he has done nothing at all, he neither has the budget to do anything for the next 12 months?
Mr. Speaker, the National Disaster Center has been doing a great job. It has been a great job. It is, I mean, with so many times, in so emergencies, they have been working to save lives. And now to come today trying to discredit the center, it's so easy. But the job is being done and it's going to be done.
Last supplementary.
Yes.
You finish?
No, it's okay.
Last
Mr. Speaker,
supplementary.
okay. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask Honourable Minister, now it is all at the end of the day a question of human resources. We saw that no one, even from the Coast Guard, was able to dive on the site. You had to get a foreigner to do it. And your own people at the Court of Investigation that there is insufficient training and no training at all in Mauritius as far as towing of ships are concerned. What have you done during the past 12 months? This is all the question is about training of your personnel in towing of ships and in diving so that next time we don't have to sit around and wait for foreigners to come.
Again, we come back to just this 1 year. Nothing has been done for 1 year. But if you have not done the study, how would we have identified the shortcomings that we have? We have done the inquiry, Mr. Speaker, sir, at the National of the Disaster Center, at the Ministry of the Merchant Shipping Department. They have done the inquiry, and we have identified our shortcoming, and we are going to act on it. The leader of the opposition is saying 1 year, 1 year. Okay, it takes time. I don't think. Maybe suppose we have done it in 6 months' time, he would have been, why don't you do it in 3 months' time? It's always the same. It's always so easy to criticize. But no. What I want to mention, Mr. Speaker, we have had a major problem with Wakasho. We have learned a lot of lessons from Wakasho. We have gotten inquiries done, not 1, 2 inquiries done. And we have identified our shortcoming. We have identified where we have to improve. And we have done all this what for? Not to do anything? No. We have done all this to work on it, and we are going to work and try to establish and to do what is needed. If you have to buy tugs, this, by the way, is bought by the MPA. If you have to buy a tug to sort out the sea lane and other equipment, the government is going to do it. We have contacted DIA, we have contacted the Japan government to help us on that. We have not been sitting, we have contacted the Japan government to help us on all these issues. So to come and say that we have not done anything and to laugh sarcastically, well, I'll leave it to the leader of the operation.
Time over. Prime Minister's question time. Honourable members advise that PQB 1860 has been withdrawn. Honourable team.
B859.
Voilà, donc à partir de maintenant, on a 30 minutes pour Prime Minister's Question Time. Alors, si le Premier ministre répond à au moins 2 ou 3 questions, eh bien, la question de Patrick Asservadens sur Angus Road va être répondue parce qu'il y a besoin d'au moins 30 minutes pour Prime Minister's Question Time et on a 30 minutes jusqu'à 13h. De toute façon, je te reste avec nous, nous poursuivons ça ensemble. Si le Premier ministre peut répondre à la question sur Angus Road, nous pouvons diffuser ça en direct. Mais pour l'heure, Jagdish, nous débrief rapidement l'Osapiankula. Bon, pas grand-chose, hein, pas grand-chose. Le vice-premier ministre Anwar Snow peut dire, parce que la question c'était 1 an après, qui finit faire?
Oui.
qui ben mesure corrective il prend pour qu'il empêche un événement pareil pour reproduire à l'avenir. Par exemple, vous avez dû demander est-ce qu'il finit au moins lancer un tender pour acheter un remorqueur, est-ce qu'il finance un nouveau équipement. Le ministre Snoop peut dire que le gouvernement pour agir, tout ça là prend le temps. Le leader de l'opposition peut dire que pendant 12 mois, est-ce qu'il n'a pas fait rien. Donc, voilà, hein, donc, le leader de l'opposition finit dire qu'il nous emergency response, donc, avec un naufrage, même bateau, les papiers morciers à Maurice, Barracuda et Donien prend des temps d'après lui pour entrer en opération. Et concernant sa rapport qui nous fait mention donc, du National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Center, et le ministre signale pas pour table donc le rapport parce que pour le moment il y a une enquête policière et ben travaux de la Court of Investigation qui est en cours. Déjà il pas pour table ça rapport là. Jagdish.
Alors, Xavier Duval, surtout comme leader de l'opposition, peut attirer l'attention du gouvernement, le manquement, le faiblesse, mesures qui Bizin prend après un an, donc une tiers leçon. Et le vice-premier ministre, Anne Hasnou, reconnaît qu'il y a beaucoup de leçons qui nous peuvent apprendre avec le naufrage du Wakasio. En termes de protection de l'environnement, une disposition qui Bizin prend en cas de sauvetage qui est nécessaire. Et là, Xavier Duval rappelle que le budget, par exemple, du National Disaster Center, ce budget, il réduire de 8 millions de roupies à 800 000 roupies. Et il pose la question au vice-premier ministre, comment, avec un tel moyen qui est là financier, il est capable donc réaliser certains projets. D'une cause, c'est vrai, remorqueur, il peut demander également est-ce qu'il nous assure la formation dans le système de remorquage, nous assure la formation pour les divers, c'est-à-dire pour les plongeurs, et également, il attire l'attention du gouvernement, le National Coast Guard de poudre d'eau, donc qui d'après lui, pas suffisamment équipé. Il également mentionne Maïbo, le National Coast Guard, là, il demande, c'est-à-dire un support, un soutien additionnel à sa deux régions stratégiques là, parce que la région de Poudre d'Or, Xavier Duval fait rappel que c'est là dans la région que le Sir Gaëtan est coulé, donc juste après, au moment de l'opération qui se peut faire autour du Wakasio. Alors, Anwar Hasnou peut dire que ça prend le temps et peut bien attendre les recommandations également de la commission d'enquête. Une enquête policière déjà complétée. Et là, quand la commission d'enquête ou la commission d'investigation pour soumettre ce ban de recommandation, le gouvernement prend présence de toutes bonnes données pour les capables donc faire un plan d'ensemble pour assurer la sécurité dans la région. Xavier Duval vient dire qu'il fait nous pas définir ban route, c'est-à-dire ban lane maritime, 26 lanes pour capable donc il y a un contrôle.
Oui, parce que déjà dans les derniers 3 mois, il y a 3 bateaux qui sont en panne dans les eaux territoriales de Maurice.
Oui, donc depuis Wakasio, il y a encore 3 bateaux dans sa région-là. Et là, c'est là qu'il peut dire, il peut justifier la nécessité d'un remorqueur beaucoup plus puissant. Et il rappelle qu'il y a un système de surveillance, de contrôle et de sauvetage, il est très lent. Il mentionne le douanier, il mentionne le remorqueur qui quitte le port et qui prend beaucoup de temps, 4 heures de temps d'après lui. Alors donc tout ça, Xavier Duval pensait, c'est le moment maintenant pour, c'est-à-dire saisir l'occasion pour nous capables de redresser la situation.
Alors, à part la suspension de la séance, un autre incident qui nous passe un petit peu inaperçu, Jagdish, c'est l'expulsion du député MSM, Kenny Denou.
Oui, Kenny Denou qui finit expulsé, donc peut-être, vous connaissez, il y a une interruption à l'intérieur du Parlement.
Une riée, faux.
Oui, capable de faire un commentaire également vis-à-vis des députés de l'opposition est souvent arrivé. Il y a une prise de bec, un affrontement. C'est-à-dire que le speaker, lui surveille tout ça. À midi 21, donc Kenny Denou, qui est député de Kirpip, fut expulsé. Le speaker a demandé withdraw from the House, from the chambers, c'est-à-dire du Parlement.
Voilà, donc nous à 12h37, le Premier ministre peut répondre en ce moment à la question de Reda Ultime concernant la carte d'identité biométrique après observation qui finit faire par donc, les Nations Unies concernant donc droit individu. Alors, Koucha Lobin également, il y a une question sur la carte biométrique. Fabrice David définit une recherche sur question. Et ensuite, il y a la fameuse question de Patrick Assiavaden concernant donc la propriété privée du Premier ministre à Angus Road à Vakwa. Alors peut-être Jagdish, nous basculons de nouveau du côté de l'Assemblée nationale.
Oui, nous suivons
la tranche de la PMQT que le Premier ministre peut répondre en ce moment à une question sur la carte d'identité biométrique.
Subsequently, being dissatisfied with the judgment of the Supreme Court and the decision of the Privy Council, Mr. Madeu forwarded a communication to the United Nations Human Rights Committee for consideration under the optional protocol to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, wherein he alleged that his right to privacy under Article 17 of the ICCPR was violated as pursuant to the provisions of the National Identity Card Act. He had the mandatory obligation to provide his fingerprints for the purpose of obtaining a national identity card. On 4th of April 2018, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights requested, through diplomatic channel, the views of the State of Mauritius at latest by 26th of September 2018 on the admissibility and merits of the submissions made by Mr. Madeu. The State of Mauritius responded to the Human Rights Committee on 20th September 2018, refuting with legal justifications the averments of Mr. Madeu that the National Identity Card Scheme was in violation of Article 17 of the ICCPR. We have now, on 21st July 2021, received an advance unedited version of the views of the United Nations Human Rights Committee on the matter, wherein it is stated, amongst others, that the state party, that is Mauritius, has not provided enough information regarding the implementation of measures to protect the biometric data stored on the identity cards. 2, has not provided sufficient guarantees against the risk of abuse and arbitrariness following the potential access to such data on identity cards. And 3, has not provided information as to how the storage and retention of fingerprint data on identity cards can effectively prevent identity fraud. Consequently, the UNHRC concluded that the right of privacy was violated given the lack of information provided by Mauritius concerning the implementation of measures to protect the biometric data stored on the identity cards. The committee further pointed out that it was essential that any biometric scheme be accompanied by robust safeguards to protect the right to privacy of the citizens. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am apprised that the information provided to the UNHRC was mainly from a legal perspective. Information was not provided regarding the existing technical safeguards such as the Security Access Modules card, used to protect fingerprint minutiae, so as to prevent any possibility of arbitrariness and abuse of the fingerprint data of any citizen that may arise from the issuance of an identity card. Furthermore, the fingerprint minutiae cannot be used to recreate the original fingerprint image. Mr. Speaker, sir, the UNHRC has requested the State of Mauritius to provide Mr. Madeu with an effective remedy and sufficient guarantees against the risk of arbitrariness and abuse of his fingerprints data that may arise from the issuance of an identity card to him. Mauritius is also required to review the ground for storing and retaining fingerprint data on identity card in light of the UNHRC views and to take steps to avoid similar violations in the future. The committee has requested the State of Mauritius to provide within 180 days information about the measures taken to give effect to the committee's views and to publish the present views and disseminate them broadly in the official language of the state party. To this effect, I have set up an interministerial committee to be chaired by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade, and comprising the Attorney General, the Minister of Information Technology, Communication and Innovation, as well as other officials and co-opted members as and when required to propose an effective remedy that may be provided to Mr. Madeu and examine in depth the views of the committee and to come up with recommendations and to prepare the response to be made to the UNHRC within the time limit. Concerning the present views submitted by the committee, action is being taken to disseminate them broadly in our official language. Mr. Speaker, sir, as regards the proposed revamping of the MNIC system, I have been informed by the Ministry of Information Technology, Communication and Innovation that the usual lifetime of such IT equipment is between 5 to 7 years. Hence, after almost 8 years of operation, it has become necessary to revamp the existing Mauritius National Identity Card scheme, as the current hardware and software of the whole system will soon reach their end of support and end of life, with the consequences that the hardware of the present system will need to be replaced, as it is no longer being supported by the vendor, resulting in spare parts and security patches being no longer available. Then, along with the hardware, the software components need to be replaced as well, as they are also no longer being supported by their respective vendors, and all software versions will not be compatible with new hardware. And moreover, the manufacturer of the national identity card has ceased to manufacture the current card version used by the MNIC system. The new version of the card proposed by the manufacturer will not be compatible with the current system. Furthermore, the stock of the existing card is expected to last up to December 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, there is therefore no other alternative than to revamp the existing system if we want to be able to make available a national identity card to each of our eligible citizens, whilst ensuring that we keep pace with the latest technology and the development of new international practice with regard to the use of biometric data. In the proposed revamping process, we wish, as a visionary government, to take the opportunity to upgrade the system to the state-of-the-art one, which will provide a wider spectrum of customized e-services and thereby further facilitating the daily activities of our citizens. Such smart cards are already being used in countries like Belgium, Finland, Germany, Estonia, and France, amongst others. Mr. Speaker, sir, with a view to ascertaining the timely implementation of the revamping project, a steering committee chaired by the Honourable Minister of Information Technology, Communication and Innovation, and a technical committee chaired by the Secretary for Home Affairs have been set up to closely monitor compliance with all the required technical and legal framework requirements of the project. I am informed that presently wide consultations are being held with all concerned stakeholders, and considerable progress has been made with regard to the preparation of the specifications and the procurement strategy to be adopted on the basis of the existing as well as the European Data Protection Supervisor Opinion 7/2018 of August 2018. Mr. Speaker, sir, now that we have the advanced unedited version of the views of the Human Rights Committee, the Steering Committee and the Technical Committee will, during their discussions, consider the impact of these views on the implementation of the revamping project and make appropriate recommendations thereon. Due consideration will be given to any legislative amendment and technical modification, if so required, prior to the coming into operation of the updated MNIC system. The new system is expected to be operational by December 2023.
Honourable Tim,
No supplementary.
Honourable Abin. So we move. Honourable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. With regards to the existing MNIC system, can the Honourable Prime Minister inform the House when did it become operational and what was the cost of its implementation?
Well, let me try to find out if I have the information. Yes, the cost of the project which is being implemented jointly by my office and the Ministry of Information Technology, Communication and Innovation is estimated to be around 230 million rupees, inclusive of VAT, over a period of 2 years. I am informed that a number of new add-ons are also being considered in the new system at a cost of 32 million rupees, subject to the financial clearance being obtained. But as for the MNIC, I think the cost could be around 1.1 billion. I think, if I have the information, yes. So it was under a G2G agreement between the government of Mauritius and Singapore at a cost of 1.1 billion rupees. And maybe it's good to remind the House also that prior to this G2G agreement, I'm sure the honorable members of the MMM would remember there was a tender that was carried out, and I think the best price that was quoted was around 400 million rupees by a company, but then the then government didn't find it worth going ahead and then decided to go for this G2G project, which has cost the government, in fact, it has cost the government more than 1.1 billion rupees.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. In his reply, the Prime Minister made mention of a new proposed system. Can the Honourable Minister provide us with some details about the procurement strategy of this new proposed system? Thank you.
Well, there were 4 possibilities that were considered, namely a government-to-government collaboration, like what was done previously, or going for open advertised bidding, or restricted bidding, or expression of interest followed by a request for proposals. Now, with a view to ensuring that the most competitive procurement method is used and to ensure full transparency, whilst at the same time taking into consideration the sensitive and confidential nature of the data on each card, my office has had several meetings with the Procurement Policy Office and the Central Procurement Board to that effect. And in light of the consultations that have been held, my office, in collaboration with the Ministry of Technology, Communication and Innovation, will soon launch an expression of interest, which will, of course, be followed by a request for proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Can the Honourable Prime Minister provide us with more information as to the process which was adopted for the revamping of the system? Thank you.
Order.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, a steering committee under the chair of the Minister of Information Technology, Communication and Innovation was set up to, inter alia, advise the government of Mauritius on any aspect of the MNIC, review the MNIC project, and project manage duties and ensure completion of tasks in connection with the MNIC project. And in order to ensure that all technical...
Order. Question time. You have a supplementary?
You answered my question. The committee set up chair. It's already said that.
You want to answer? You want to answer in my place? You want to answer? Because you know everything. You are the most knowledgeable person. Here.
Order. Order. Order.
Monsieur le Président, j'ai une question inscrite aujourd'hui concernant directement le Premier ministre sur l'affaire Angus Road. Le Premier ministre a pris tout son temps pour répondre à une seule question pendant 30 minutes. Alors...
Please, you stop there.
Alors... question, c'est le Premier ministre direct.
You stop there. This is not a point of order. This is not a point of order. Please, give the Prime Minister time to answer his question. No, don't talk to me. You have no right to talk to me. You don't have the floor. You don't have the floor. Yes, I have already given my ruling. Yes, I have already given my ruling. I've already given my ruling. I repeat my ruling. I repeat my ruling. This is not a point of order, honorable member. This is your opinion, and my ruling is final. Honorable Prime Minister, you continue.
So may I continue with my reply? So I was saying, Mr. Speaker, sir, that...
What are you talking about? Please continue. Talking about you look at your face. Look at your face. Continue. Look at your face. 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 Look at your face.
Section 47. Je voudrais citer section 47 et ensuite vous donnez vos mots. Monsieur le Président. Merci. Monsieur le Président, la section 47 du Standing Order, irrelevance and repetition. The Speaker or the person presiding, after having called the attention of the Assembly or the Committee to the conduct of a member who persists in irrelevance and tedious repetition, either on his or an argument. Le Premier ministre répète pendant 30 minutes.
Don't give a verdict. You already made your point of order. Who can judge the relevance, you or me? So, Prime Minister, terminate with your reply.
Yes. I was saying, Mr.
Order! 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 Order there also. Both sides of the House, order. Please.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I was saying, the committee has been set up under the chair of the Minister of Information, Technology, Communication and Innovation to advise the government of Mauritius on any aspect of the MNIC, to review the MNIC project, and to project manage duties and ensure completion of the tasks in connection with the MNIC project. In order to ensure that all technical and non-technical aspects of the project were captured, a technical committee was set up under the chair of the Secretary for Home Affairs, and 4 subcommittees have been set up also. The first one, under the responsibility of the Prime Minister's office, to look into the legal and policy matters. The other subcommittee, under the responsibility of the Central Informatics Bureau, to look into the infrastructure matters. A third subcommittee, under the responsibility of the Ministry of TCI, to look into the application and the card usage matters. And the fourth subcommittee has the responsibility, under the responsibility of the Civil Status Division, to look into the HR and logistics matters. Several meetings of the steering committee, the technical committee, and the different subcommittees have already taken place, and a number of important recommendations with respect to the technical features of the new card have already been taken.
Time over. I'll suspend the sitting for 1.5 hours.
Voilà, tu me poses la question, est-ce que la fameuse question de Patrick Assia-Vaden, Angus Road va être répondue ou non? La réponse est non. Et le speaker suspend la séance pour la pause déjeuner sous les protestations des rangs de la majorité avec, nous finissons, shame, shame, shame. Donc, Jagdish, quand nous guette le fil des événements aujourd'hui, et il est bien triste quand nous pouvons trouver donc la façon que les travaux parlementaires peuvent dérouler et surtout la séance d'aujourd'hui. Donc, finalement, nous faisons un recap de ce qui vient d'arriver.
Oui.
Donc, à 11h30, la séance finit de démarrer. Finalement, un hommage du Premier ministre
à Retno Payendi, ancien député.
Donc, à l'ancien député Payendi. Et puis, finalement, 2 annonces du speaker. Une concernant donc l'hommage qui Lok Sabha fin en Inde finiront à Sanero Jagnat, et puis un incident qui date de juin 2020 entre Bobby Hariram et Shakil Mohamed. Le speaker finit simplement dire qu'il a une sorte démontré que le ministre Hariram présente les excuses. Et puis finalement la PNQ du leader de l'opposition adressé à Anwar Husnu. Et puis tout d'un coup, et fait très surprenant, le speaker dit que ni le leader de l'opposition ni le ministre Husnu peut adresser the chair, il attire l'attention, un coup d'écoute, et puis il met les debout et il sortit y aller. Il même pas dit qu'il peut suspendre la séance, il met debout, il sortit y aller, et donc ce qui veut dire que la séance est suspendue, et c'est un genre de un walkout entre guillemets que le speaker lui-même fait. Il suspend la séance pour 15 minutes, l'eau un incident qui, mon patient nous capable de qualifier ça d'incident, un affaire très mineur.
Oui,
l'eau une latitude qui ni le ministre, ni le l'opposition peut adresser le tiers, speaker Djibouti sorti, il suspend la séance pour 15 minutes, l'eau un incident très très mineur. La séance reprend, la PNQ continue, et puis à midi, à 12h31, PNQ finit, et place à Prime Minister's Question Time. Et d'après Standing Orders, il y a 30 minutes pour la PMQT. Finissant la question de Reza Utim et la question de Kouchalobin, la carte d'identité biométrique, qui le Premier ministre finit de répondre. Une très longue réponse de Pravin Jagnat.
Pendant 30 minutes également.
Pendant une vingtaine de minutes, Pravin Jagnat finit de répondre. Donc, il reste encore 10 minutes. Et Reza Utim et Kouchalobin finissent dire qu'ils ont une question supplémentaire. Donc, ce qui fait que la prochaine question, c'était la question de Patrick Assia-Vaden, le Angus Road. Parce que Fabrice David, me rappelle, finit retire sa question. Donc, quand ça des députés de l'opposition disent dans supplémentaire, là, nous trouvons un député de la majorité qui rentrait, Ashley Itou, Doulob et Sandra Mayotte qui pose ben supplémentaire. Donc, Léa continue de passer. Finit dans une protestation de Patrick Assia-Vaden, peut dire que le Premier ministre peut prendre 30 minutes pour répondre à une seule question. Et donc, cette question, le Angus Road, par finette posée. Arrivé néa et le speaker suspend la séance pour la pause déjeuner. L'élément clé de ce qui finit arrivé aujourd'hui, l'élément crucial aujourd'hui, Jagdish, c'est la suspension de la séance lors de la PNQT par le speaker. Il y a deux questions très importantes qui nous sont imposées à ce stade. Est-ce qu'un speaker besoin suspendre une séance parlementaire, juste la cause
directement senti, directement
leader de l'opposition ou bien le ministre pape adresse the chair. Il suffit une remarque, des remarques, il débouter, il expliquer sur la voie des affaires, il a crié un coup, il dit pape adresse the chair. Est-ce qu'il besoin suspendre une séance de la PNQ, Zispaski parlementaire papier adresse the chair. Un incident très très mineur. Deuxième question, sin sispan, est-ce qu'il besoin sispan pour 15 minutes? Là, un incident aussi mineur. Ça 15 minutes là, fin faire qui la question de Patrick Assiavaden pas fin capable d'être posée. La question là, Angus Road. Maintenant, le PMQT, Premier ministre, il prend 30 minutes pour répondre à une seule question dans Prime Minister's Question Time. Moi, je la même, Jagdish. Bon, envie de dire beaucoup de choses. La loi, pas permettre de dire plus que ça.
Pas aller là pour faire un contempt of assembly.
La loi, le Parlement, la loi, le Parlement, ni IBA Act, pas permettre de dire plus que ça. Moi, envie de dire beaucoup de choses. Mais, moi, bien triste, comme on regarde ce qui est arrivé aujourd'hui au Parlement. Jagdish.
Oui. Nawaz allocation le temps, il définit, il est bien important et généralement, que ce soit l'opposition, gouvernement ou Premier ministre, je tenais différentes prérogatives pour répondre à bonnes questions. Et donc, aujourd'hui, nous finissons assister à une séance, comment dire, l'opposition qui est déterminée pour qu'il y ait au moins une réponse sur l'affaire de Angus Road qui concerne l'acquisition immobilière par le Premier ministre et son épouse. Et il n'est pas directement ces autres, mais surtout l'enquête que la police peut faire. Mais seulement, ça n'a pas fait capable de répondre, même si, c'est-à-dire le député David, il retient sa question pour aller le temps, pour donner l'occasion donc au Parlement gagner une réponse. Et entre-temps, ce qui vient de passer, c'est 3 députés, 3 backbenchers du gouvernement qui viennent remplir le vide, remplissent l'espace qui tient là pour que le Premier ministre réponde à d'autres questions supplémentaires. Donc les députés Itou, Doulob et Mayotte amènent d'autres contributions, mais en faveur du gouvernement pour capable, donner le Premier ministre, faire une réponse supplémentaire sur la question de carte biométrique. Oui, nous pas pour capable de faire beaucoup de commentaires, nous laisse donc, c'est-à-dire le Parlement, les nécessaires qu'il y fonctionne et qui bonne réponse à certaines questions d'importance nationale. Ces bonnes questions-là, au moins, je te réponds dans le délai prescrit.
Ne pas vous faire plus de commentaires parce que la loi n'a pas permis de faire ça, mais pour rendre l'antenne en posant cette question et me laisse à ben auditeur eux-mêmes donc répondre à sa question-là. Y a-t-il eu un coup planifié pour éviter la question de Patrick Assiavaden sur l'affaire Angus Road au Parlement? Pour poser sa question-là, et me laisse ben auditeur réfléchir à sa question-là. Merci, à bientôt, à venir le journal avec Dushila Mansingh.
Bonne journée.